Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0 fans. You're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do the countdown, episode number 120. That's right, guys. This week we have 15 comics to talk about all together, and a couple of them are digital, and there's 13 physical copies. So, with that being said, guys, let's talk about my favorite comics, starting with my least favorite, going all the way down to number one. So this week, guys, my number 15 book of the week was, yeah, this one was disappointing. Superman issue number 45. That's right, guys. This was a book that was just absolutely disappointing. Now that Superman is not only mostly powerless, now he's doing fighting against other meta-like humans for money. And that's something that he's sworn that he would never do. But again, he finds himself in a no-case scenario in order to do it. Now, the saving grace about this book, if you're a fan of Superman, is the artwork in here. The artwork is not done by John Romita Jr., and the artwork looks much more appealing than in the books in the past. So I can give my hats off for using a different artist in this particular beginning of the story arc, where Superman has good detail and whatnot, but the story itself just keeps getting worse. We have Superman going in trying to find again this Hoarder Root character, and somehow in the end of it, he winds up in this fighting ring to fight other people. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, Superman is wearing a mock cape, which is a disgrace to the character, I feel. And now he's wearing a shirt that's not really his anyway. And I don't know. I don't like this street level Superman. I think they're just taking it a little bit too far. And I was just shaking my head by the time I got done with it. And so I gave this issue a 1.5 or 1.5 out of 5 stars for me. I thought this was a really weak issue and just something that if you're a Superman fan, I think that you're going to be severely pissed off at. So, with that being said, let's go forward to number 14's book this week. And number 14 for me was Grayson issue number 13. Now, this is only the second issue that I read of Grayson. So when I read this particular issue, I felt pretty lost here. I thought, it was going to really play off of the heels off of the last issue. And it really didn't. I mean, yes, it had Tim Drake in this particular issue. But I found that the characters in the book weren't appealing to me. I just found myself it being a lot of spy work, and it was just a type of book for me that this time around it was a chore to read. It wasn't very enjoyable, and I was hoping to see maybe a reemergence really of the Bat family in this issue, and you really didn't get to see that. You get to see again a little bit of Tim Drake, but nothing on the caliber of the last issue. You actually get to see Grayson do you know, go against this character guy by the name of Tiger Shark, who is a very generic like character. You get to see him do his spy work and whatnot, but the artwork is pretty good in the book. I like the colors and things like that, but overall for me, I just thought this book was just a miss, and I didn't like it, and I found myself just going, well, I guess I'm not going to read Grayson anymore, and I just had the same feeling I felt when I read issue one back in, when this series first started. So unfortunately, I'm not going to read that one anymore. And I gave that one 2 stars. Again, if you're a Grayson fan, if you've read this series from the beginning, you might like it. But for me, it just wasn't my cup of tea, and I felt lost in the whole thing. So that one got number 14 this week. All right, so number 13 this week was the conclusion to Where Monsters Dwell. Uh, this is issue number 5. In this issue, we wind up seeing pretty much the origin story here of the female, and I forgot her particular name in here, and I'm trying to look for it real quick. But the main man in here is Carl Kaufman, if I remember, and Clemmy is her name, Franklin Cox. And in this issue, you wind up seeing Carl Kaufman, the man that has kind of betrayed all women his entire life, took people for granted, really gets it stuck. to him in the end of this series. You get to see Clemmy here leaving her Amazon women to try to meet with Carl for one final time, and she kind of reveals her story to Carl in the issue. And it took 5 issues to finally get something out of this character. They really, dilly-dallied a lot with this series, with humor and things like that. And then in this last issue, it just got real serious. And I was just like, why couldn't they tell her story all along or something like that? Why did they felt like they had to cram it in here in this last issue? It really kind of interrupted the tone and the flow of this book and this series in general, because this was always like seemed like a lighthearted series, and then it just got real serious at the end. And he talked about her husband and things like that. And as Carl finally flies away in here, he said he was going to fly away. Clemmy, spares his life, saying that he's a loser. He's not going to survive anyway. And he winds up flying off and giving her the finger in the end, which was the only real funny moment in this particular issue, as he was going to survive. Well, he gets his plane actually struck down by lightning, and he winds up going to the island where we first read the series, that he left this princess that was pregnant, that he impregnated, and he's stuck on this island with her forever, just her and this princess or whatever it is. So, and that's how his ending. That's how his ending happens. It was an okay ending. It just wasn't. I didn't expect this type of ending, and honestly, I didn't know how this book was going to end. But it just got too dragged on with this particular character here, and I just found myself bored with it. And then kind of the ending that how all these Secret War books have ended. It was kind of just like, maybe it's not the ending you're expecting, or it ends a little flat. And then there's been some that have been really good. So, and I think all of us have been just all overdone with Secret Wars, and I think it's just run its course now, and we're just waiting for him to end. So nevertheless, overall the series was good, but this particular issue was the weakest one in my opinion, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. All right. So next we go on to number 12. And number 12 this week goes to Canon, the Last Padawan. I don't know if I'm going to be reading this anymore. I think I'm starting to I'm finding myself a little bit bored with this, about Canon and his lost history of him being a child and whatnot. I thought the first story arc was really good. Him meeting with his, becoming the Jedi that he is, or growing up, becoming a smuggler, and now you're still learning like this backstory of him, about now in this issue how he first met his actual Jedi master. And I was just like, okay, and you find out a little bit more about the character, which was okay. We know that she went through a bad battle, and she went through a lot of trauma, and she holds herself responsible. And Canon, really draws himself to her, and people are saying rumors that she's damaged goods. And it was okay, but I was just like, I found myself at this point with him almost not really caring, because this Jedi Knight, this master, we know winds up dying anyway. And so I don't know. I found myself going, once again, I was like, okay, this is okay, but I almost don't really care anymore, because it's just one of these stories that it's almost kind of throwaway, because he's looking for his old smuggler friend. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence. I wasn't going to get it this time around, but since it was a lighter comic book week, I was like, okay, let me keep reading it and seeing what it has to offer. And again, I just find myself a little bit over it, finding out his history. I want to see more current adventures, and that's just how I feel about the whole situation. So I gave this one 3 stars. It was average for me this time around. All right. Next, we go on to number 11. And number 11 is Sinestro, issue number 16, where Sinestro looks like he's doing battle against Black Adam. You would think, but that's not the case. In this issue, it's a meeting of 2 kings. And this is kind of taking a break of what's going on in the storyline right now, in the main storyline, where Sinestro is kind of gathering troops and he's trying to prepare his army for the return, maybe, of the possible Green Lantern Corps. His core members are actually taking place of them, patrolling the universe. And in this issue, you wind up seeing Sinestro, again, teams up with Black Adam, trying to get information about this type of characters in here. They call their names the Paling. So he goes to Black Adam. He tries to find information from him, and obviously Black Adam has this information because in his past, way back in his past, he's done battle against these particular characters. There were some good moments in this book when it comes to Sinestro and Black Adam's dialogue with each other and interactions with each other about, Black Adam having this, having a host and having another chair, and he's just like, well, there's only one chair, and that's me for the king. And so Sinestro uses his ring power to actually get a throne next to Black Adam, which I really thought was kind of cool. But overall, this kind of veers away from the main story plot. So if you're looking to jump onto this book at this point, you're gonna be like, "What is Sinestro and Black Adam? What are they talking about?" So you're gonna be lost. So I figured that. I think issues number 13 or 14 and 15 are the issues that you want to read to get what's really going on here. And this story continues. This story arc continues, I think, for one more issue. And again, it's about Sinestro dealing with these Paling characters and the master of the Paling. So we'll see where this one goes. But this one was a little bit lackluster for me in an otherwise fantastic series. And I give that one a 3.25 out of 5 stars. All right. So next book we're going to talk about is, as we crack our top 10 this week, we talk about Savage Dragon issue number 206. In this issue, we wind up seeing Mr. Glum and the Evil Angel from Dimension X going to do battle against Malcolm Dragon and Good Angel from Earth. And in this issue, there's lots of action. There's lots of battle that goes on. And what happens is, the last issue, you really got to see a lot of focus on Angel and Mr. Glum and their relationship and how they are with each other. Well, in this particular issue, this battle happens, and we find out that Malcolm and Angel are sent from Earth to destroy Mr. Glum and Angel so they don't take over the galaxy, or they don't take over the universe or Earth, or whatever it is. And they succeed in doing that. They destroy the Evil Angel, and Mr. Glum was super pissed off. And we wind up finding out that that Dexter, also the friends of Malcolm and Angel, gets destroyed by Mr. Glum. So you get 2 deaths in here. But they wind up prevailing, Angel and Dragon, and they take Mr. Glum back to Earth, and they wind up having him go into prison. And it was kind of funny because Mr. Glum winds up saying, "Oh, you'll see my little buddy, his name is Froggy or something like that, or Toady. He's going to go back and he's going to send me my armor, and I'm going to come back. He's going to send it through the portal. I'm going to destroy Earth." And his little buddy's just having a glass of wine there, just watching him through the portal, not doing anything. And Mr. Glum's like, "Oh, shit." Again, Savage Dragon, it's a cult following. Certain people read it, not many do. I think I read it and I enjoy it because, again, I've read it since I was a kid. It's one of those books I've stuck with forever. It's just like Spider-Man for me, and I enjoyed the issue. However, it doesn't blow your socks off. It never blows my mind away, except when something weird happens in the book. And this time around, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right. Going forward now, we're going to go to number 9. And number 9 this week goes to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue number 51. This is the aftermath of the monumental $8 issue 50. And in this book, you wind up seeing kind of how the Turtles are handling current times with them leading the Foot Clan. They go after this crazy type of new gang that uses this cloak technology that is actually borrowed from their good friends and scientists. His name is Harold. And we find out that the Turtles in this book also have a tough time trying to manage the Foot Clan as their leaders, along with Splinter, and the Foot Clan is kind of used to just killing people, and you find the Turtles sitting there going, "Scale back! We don't kill that. We don't do that anymore. We don't kill people." You also deal with in this issue with um, Michelangelo, who also has a tough time, dealing with the situation, and he feels that he's better off alone at this time. And Raphael talks to Donatello or to Michelangelo and says, "Hey, whenever you feel that you're ready to come back, you're more than welcome to come back." Splinter deals with certain situations as well as him, dealing with these new responsibilities. He feels that something's going to go wrong in the future. And in the end of this issue, after we find out that there's this, this cloaking technology that's been used by Harold, that they stole this stuff from him or whatever it is, we find out that a member of the Foot Clan is not loyal to the Turtles and Splinter, but loyal to this new cloak gang. So we're going to see where this one actually goes. I thought this was a pretty good issue. The artwork is a little bit deteriorated. There's a different artist in this particular issue, or maybe this story arc, because they're probably giving him a break after all the art he's done, especially for issue 50. It wasn't the best art, but it wasn't bad either. The Turtles, when they were drawn, when they were fighting, reminded me of their old 1980s Mirage Studio type of days. But the other characters in there kind of always didn't do it for me. So the art was so-so for me. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 3.25 out of 5 stars. It was a good book and it was a good read, and there's a lot of story to tell with the Turtles. All right, so next we go on to number 8. And number 8 goes to the Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D. This book was a nice surprise. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this one was cool. It has to deal with the task force for S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're called the Stake Division. They deal with the supernatural abilities of S.H.I.E.L.D., the S.H.I.E.L.D. that can't handle, that they don't want to handle. So they give it to Dum Dum Dugan and his cast of zany creature-like or whatever horror-like creatures. And in this book, they had to go um, actually to this ship, and they had to retrieve this artifact, and all these people came with the traditional, these zombies that formed on board, but they were plant zombies, so they're some kind of zombies. And you get introduced to the cast of characters of who was in this book. You find out that Duggan is an actual advanced life model decoy, so he remembers all the types of all the memories that he deals with and things like that. The book shows a lot of humor in here. There's a zombie guy on here. His name is Jasper, I think it is. And he's real stupid, and they gave him a rocket launcher, and he almost blew his head off, which was funny. And you get a little bit of the cast of characters in the book, which I thought was neat. And they use references from the original Avengers, bring in the big green guy. It's nothing, nothing can save us now except for him. And it was Man-Thing that they threw in there. Hit Monkey's in the book. The artwork fit the tone of the book, which I thought was really nice. And this was a pleasantly surprising, good story. I thought it was well written. And if you like horror monsters, I think it could be for you. I think this is a good book. I like the way it was drawn and whatnot. And I'm gonna give issue 2 a try. I gave this one again 4 out of 5 stars. A fun read and good dialogue, and my hat's off to this one. This is a true all new, all different Marvel title, something we haven't seen. So again, 4 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go on and we move forward and we go on to number 7, which goes to Batman and Robin Eternal, issue number 4. Another solid book from Batman and Robin Eternal. I gave this one another 4 out of 5 stars as we get to see Grayson go after and try to save Bruce against all the mother minions, if you want to call them. And there was a lot of action in this book, let me just tell you. And the artwork continues to be solid in this book, and I gotta give my hats off now. We're on 4 issues, and it's been really good art all the way through. But there was lots of going on in this book. I mean, there was a lot of going on in this book. And we wind up seeing Barbara make her appearance in here with the We Are Robin gang, and I haven't read anything that had to do with that series yet. And I think maybe I should now to learn more about these characters. But they wind up making their appearance in this book, and I was like, "Holy shit! We literally have every freaking Robin on in Batman in this particular series within the first 4 issues." I don't think there's anybody that we're missing now, right? I think we got everybody because Barbara makes her appearance in here too. She looks great. I thought she was beautiful in the issue, and the colors really popped in here. And but I just thought there was almost too much going on with this issue. A lot of action, and then all of a sudden, you wind up seeing um, you wind up seeing uh oh my God, what's her name? Harper Row actually Bluebird actually going after Cassandra Cain in the issue, and and you got Spoiler sitting there yapping in the ear saying, "Yo, you gotta take care of her. She could kill you at any second." And then there was all kinds of stuff going on with Grayson and Tim Drake and Jason Todd and just all kinds of shit just happening in this issue. And there was a lot going on. And I felt like they tried to really squeeze in a lot in this one particular book. But the cliffhanger was pretty good because you wind up seeing that Tim Drake gets a call and it's from Mother, and he's like all of a sudden now possessed by her, or he's under her spell, and now guess who's there? I mean, you got Spoilers there, and I think Jason Todd is there, and now is he going to attack them? So we'll see what happens. But this has been a really good book, a really good series so far. Solid first 4 issues. Hopefully it continues that way. I remember last time with Batman and Robin Eternal, I think after the first 4 or 3 books, I think it started going downhill a little bit. I think it was after the first 3, and I remember I was like, oh, I don't like that 4th issue. But this continues to be strong, so I have high hopes for it. Definitely worth the money so far. Um, all right, so we're going to go forward now, and we go on to number 6. And number 6 was a cool one-shot issue when it comes to the Dark Side War, and this is Dark Side War Batman issue number 1. This was a really cool tale of getting a feel of how Batman is now in this Mobius chair. I think the artwork was beautiful in this book. It was so detailed, and it just fit how Gotham is like, just dark and eerie. And we get to see Batman go back and relive the past of how his parents were killed, and he felt that he needed to do something for himself after he took care of other issues in the city. And we get to see how much he tries to protect the city by going as far as putting people in jail before they've actually committed the crimes, which I thought was hilarious. But in the issue, he winds up and he goes back to Joe Chill and he visits him. He relives the time when his parents were killed, and he relives and he goes to his actual jail cell, and he scares the shit out of Joe Chill. And what happens, and he sits there and he reveals his mask. He takes it off and he just sits there and goes, "Oh, I'm Bruce Wayne," and he's like, "Holy shit!" And the guy was like shitting in his pants. He couldn't believe that the little boy's parents is Batman, and what happens is, he didn't kill him. He wasn't going to do that, but he just put him in this very hard state, and then eventually says, "You're not going to remember anything." So it was very interesting, and then you get to see in the issue how much of a toll this chair actually kind of takes on Batman when he wants to do things his way and he goes against the chair. But the chair does keep him fed and does keep him hydrated, which is weird because I always think, doesn't he get tired of sitting on the chair? Like, don't you get tired of sitting on that chair for 24 hours a day? It's just like, "Oh, Mobius chair. Hey, I'm gonna fight." I'm like, don't you get tired? Don't you want to stand every once in a while? I don't know. I just found that weird. But this was a good read. Great one shot here. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the other one shots, but this one was really good because it was Batman. So awesome stuff. Gave that one again, a 4 out of 5 stars. All right, next we're going to continue forward, and we're going to go on to now the top 5. And the top 5 goes to an issue that hasn't been out in a while, or a series that hasn't been out in a while, and that's Chew, issue number 51. We found out that the vampire collector is no more. He's not around anymore, which I think was pretty cool. And this book takes place 2 years later after that. And then you find out what's going on with Olive's actual daughter, and you wind up seeing his, I think, his wife, Chu's wife, was what's going on in heaven. This book is just so out there, man. And you wind up finding out that I think Teddy Bear, I think is his name. He's the one that's protecting the president, and there's this mystery guy that's part of this cult called the Egg that was trying to take over, and all kinds of weird crap goes on. But really, what this issue is about is you get to see a character development of Tony Chu's sister in here, and she makes friends with this this character right here, and which I thought was kind of funny. And she winds up teaming up with her to do missions in the future, and that's really what it is. And it gives you a brief description again of what Olive Chu is, and there's only three of her in her kind, which is her father, and Agent Savoy, and she's the most powerful of them all. And we wind up finding out that she saves the day for the president, and we wind up finding out that she winds up going and teaming up with her assistant chef in the issue, and they poke fun at like Jurassic World in here, and what takes place I think like another year later, and then they poke fun at Jaws, which takes place another year later. And yeah, so it's just funny all the little things that they do in this particular series. And this was just a fun little story that had to deal with Olive Chu. And this ends the Last Supper's chapter number 1. This is a series that I think you guys would love to enjoy if you go back and read the earlier issues and trades. And it all goes in I think 5-issue trades. So I think you would really like it. It's really funny and really original story. So after reading this one, I gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we go on to a book that I bought because of the cover. Honestly, I thought, and I said, wow, what if the Green Goblin had the Infinity Gauntlet or stole the Infinity Gauntlet? And I was like, that's a cool story. Cool cover, and I want to read what they have to say about this what if story. And this takes place during Dark Reign, and this is instead of the Avengers actually, prevailing and putting the Dark Avengers away and putting Norman Osborn away. What if tables were turned and he stole the Infinity Gauntlet? And I thought this book was really cool because this focuses around Norman's father. He basically brings his father on this journey to show his dad what he has accomplished in his time as ruler. And he spends the entire issue trying to make his father proud. And it seems like that's really what's driven the character today for power, to be on top. And his father's like, this is crazy. This is tyranny. This is ridiculous. And with his Infinity Gauntlet power, Norman Osborn sits there and goes, boom. Or was it, or am I getting this confused? Yeah, Norman Osborn. Yeah, he snaps his fingers and he sits there and he goes, you're gonna love me no matter what. And so his father is forced to sit there and go, oh, whatever you want, Norman, whatever you want. But the best thing about this book, after you learn about how he's taken, in control of the Infinity Gauntlet, how he's ruled the Earth, and how he told his dad something, he said, I thought that the most creepiest and eerie thing in this particular issue was when he has one of his most arch nemesis, Spider-Man, relive his, I guess, his legacy, the moment that made the villain, and Spider-Man's worst time ever. And that was when Green Goblin actually killed Gwen Stacy, or when Spider-Man tried to save Gwen Stacy. And he actually had Spider-Man in his sick way relive that moment over and over and over and over and over again. And it was just like, oh my God, that's horrible. And so that's what he's done to Spider-Man. And he sits there and he laughs about it. And again, that's when his dad was just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And again, he sits there and he puts this spell on his father. The awesome thing is in this issue is that Thanos comes around. He wants to retrieve the Infinity Gauntlet back. And Green Goblin, changes into Green Goblin, and he sits there and he says, never, I'm never going to do it. And he goes, listen, you can have any power you want, you can have no matter what you want, but you're never going to have true love. He's like, you can make someone love you, you can make someone do this, but you're never going to have love. And he goes, I realized this because of death, because he could never have death love him. So it was the same thing, and he can never get true love. And so what happens is when he disintegrates Thanos, uh, it felt like that message kind of got under Norman Osborn in the issue. And what happens is he goes, "Shut up, Dad! I don't want you to, love me just because I'm your blood and this and that." And he sits there and he goes, "I wish you never existed." And not thinking of what ramifications could have like that. His dad never existed in space and time. He destroys him, but at the same time, in his rage and anger, he winds up erasing himself in existence because he killed his father. And I thought that was really awesome. I thought this was a great one-shot story. And if you're a Spider-Man fan as much as I am, I think you're gonna love this story of Norman Osborn on his rise to power and how much he's done, but then on his quick demise as well. So it was a really good book. And I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right. So next we go on to number 3. And number 3 goes to Spider-Man 2099, issue number 2. This was a nice read. This is kind of seeing the ramifications of what happens with Miguel's girlfriend, Tempest, as we find out that she was, as a truck, I guess, collided into a building. It wound up blowing up, almost killed Miguel, wound up killing his actual girlfriend, Tempest. And he wakes up in the hospital, killing Peter Parker, strangling him because he didn't know where he was. And so you're just like, oh, wow, that's insane. And, this emotions ran high. And the anger of Miguel, because of this girl that he loves so much, he actually put being Spider-Man 2099 aside to be with her, and just to help run Peter's company. But being that she's dead now, he feels that he's obligated to avenge her death. And it was cool in the issue because you wind up seeing Tempest's mom blame Miguel for his actual death, which was insane in the actual issue. I couldn't believe it. So right away, Miguel, says he's got to avenge the death. He goes into the actual secret spider lair, and he does this investigation of trying to find out who did this killing, this terrorist attack, and he finds out that it's this possible scientist that helped, who was actually more smarter than Dr. Doom in creating robots. And so he went after, got his new spider suit on, which we knew it was this new white and black and red suit, and he goes after to find this scientist. Well, by the time he gets and finds this scientist, you find out that he's not some old man. He's got this genetic armor that makes him big and strong or whatnot. So, and he goes after him. I thought this was a cool story. Miguel is angry right now. And so how far is he going to go? Will he cross that line that, superheroes don't usually go to, where all of a sudden he becomes the anti-hero? Does he cross that line like Kane or somebody like that? I don't think he will, but I think he's just very angry right now. And I like the story here, and I like how he becomes, Spider-Man again. However, the only thing that got me a little bit was the ending. It seemed like kind of a generic ending to me, the classic bad guy, and it wasn't like a cool bad guy. It was like some dude we've never seen before, and I was just like, okay, well, we'll see where this goes, though. You still get to see Roberta Mendes in here as the Captain America 2099 Captain America. Her story looks like it's going to develop in this series ongoing, so we'll see where she goes. It's just sad to see Tempest go because it's one of those things that in all Spider-Man books, again, we see that Spider-Man loses his loved one. So that's where I was a little bit upset with. But we'll see what happens with this. And I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we go on to number 2. Number 2 was a digital book that I read, recommendation. I looked at this earlier in the week, and I decided to read it, and it was Black Magic, issue number 1. This one was written by Greg Rucka, and the art was done by Nikolai Scott. And the artwork is great. The book is a black and white book. However, it's absolute gorgeous artwork in the actual book. And it's really detailed. And you know, you wind up getting to meet this main character who's like this witch, but she's a sheriff. And so in the beginning, you wind up seeing her as, you know, doing is in this like weird ritual, doing some crazy stuff. And then she winds up getting a phone call during the ritual to go to this actual hostage situation. So she winds up going to this hostage situation, and this dude is like asking for her particularly, and he has hostages in there. So really, she has to go inside and she got to talk to this guy, and this guy kind of knows something about her, and we're not too sure. But the actual suspense that this book um, captured was amazing because you're not sure what's going to happen with this guy, what's going to happen with the main character in here, and you know, it was just very suspenseful and intense with this hostage situation. You thought that the police were in control, but the hostage just knew everything about her, and they just kept on going back and forth. And he had the gun to her face and whatnot, and it was just a really awesome book. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of it, he was looking for actual help, but in the end, she couldn't give him the help that he really wanted, and so he was going to burn her anyway. But what happens is the magic wound up deflecting it and wound up actually burning him instead. And that was kind of like how the issue really ended with the dude being burned, and she was like forced to kill her. So it's a very suspenseful type of book, very mysterious and intense all at the same time. I thought the book was well done. It definitely warrants a second issue, and this is something to probably look out for in the future when it comes to good Image titles. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, so last but not least, here we go on to the number one book of the week, the top book, and this got 5 stars by far. And once again, it goes to Manifest Destiny, issue number 18. Last time I talked about this book, we talked about a creature that would take someone's head and put it on their body so they could survive. And you get to see that in this issue. That creature's like this bat-like creature. It severed a soldier's head off, and that's what happens in this book. It is insane. It puts the head back onto its body. It creates this. It made this weird smile, and it gives the creature life. And you're just like, oh my God. And you can see the artwork in this book and the details and how realistic it is. It's just an eerie and dark, and you know, and it fits that timeline of like the 17 or 1800s or whatever it was. It was just so intense, and you got to see the crew of Lewis and Clark try to defeat this creature because they wanted to, you know, honor their fallen hero, and they wanted to destroy this creature because the little bluebirds, these guys here, they said if they made a deal with them, they said if you destroy this creature for us, we'll give you back the you know, your crew member that we took from you. So they made that deal. And so in the end, they wind up getting the creature. They wind up killing the creature, and they literally hacked it to pieces, and they chopped off the head back off of the creature, and then what happens is, you know, our crew here winds up celebrating with these bluebird creatures. I forgot the breed that they're called, but they become friends. They wind up partying. They wind up drinking with each other. You know, these creatures wind up eating the meat of that weird creature, and you were like, oh wow, everything's ending all hunky dory. They wind up going back to the ship, and they wind up honoring the person that saved the day. The character development issue that we got in the last issue, I think his name was Sergeant Cooper, or his name is Private Cooper, or whatever he is now, and he's just a young boy. And he teamed up with one of those birds to save the day. So after they actually initiated him into the crew, made them part of the crew, it was something that I totally did not expect. And this is one of those things where, yes, Lewis and Clark and his crew are the good guys in this series, and they're the guys that are preventing danger across the land because that is their mission here. But you thought that they made good friends with these creatures, but what happened was when after, the party was over and these creatures were all drunk and full and sleeping, they came back and they wind up killing the entire breed of creatures. They wind up slitting its neck, they wind up shooting them in the face, and they wind up just massacring these creatures because they felt that yes, they could be a threat, and they were a threat earlier because they took one of their crew members. And for the first time in this series, I felt, oh my God, what are they doing? And it was even mentioned by Captain Lewis here, saying that it doesn't sit right with me, but I felt that they're a threat and I have to go on with the mission. And the sad thing is about this book, the little boy that was initiated into the crew, Cooper, comes face to face with the bird that he worked with in the mission to get that creature out of that crazy ark to destroy. And the bird, pleads for its life and sits there and says, "Don't be like the other ones, Collins." His name was Collins. I'm sorry, not Cooper. He says, "Don't be like the other ones, Collins. Don't do it. Don't be like them." And in the end, he just sits there and says sorry and just blows his brains out. And that's how the story arc ended. And I was just like, wow, that was just really intense. And I didn't see that coming in this. I just felt them destroying that crazy bat-like creature and them having a grand old day, and then they'll be on their way thinking that they made friends with these species, but they felt that the species was a threat in the end, and they had to put them out of their misery. And I was just like, I almost got teary eyed actually reading this because to me, it was like they were a bunch of animals and they were killing animals. And I'm an animal lover. I love dogs. I love animals of every kind. And they made it very realistic in this book that these were almost like animals. I mean, look at the eyes in this thing. It's pleading. It's just like, oh my God, very emotional book. It's a great read. It's a phenomenal read. I don't hear many people talking about it. I hear a few that do read it say it's a fantastic book, but I don't hear that many people talking about it. And this is a well done book. I mean, a well done book. Chris Dingus and Matthew Roberts are on par with this, and I hope this series lasts forever. The adventures are great, and it's very unpredictable, and I couldn't say enough about it. So I give that one a 5 out of 5 stars. By far the greatest book of the week. So guys, in the comments below, tell me what your favorite comic book of the week was, what your least favorite book of the week was, and put all that other stuff down in between what you kind of liked. So guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0, and this has been The Countdown. And fans, I'll see you in the next comic book review. Take care. See you soon. Bye.